Welcome everybody to another episode of This Week in MXA presented by O'Neill Racing. I'm Josh Mosiman, and today we're having a fun little comparison. We're talking about the 2025 Honda CRF250 Works Edition. Now, factory editions, Works Editions, special racer editions, all these different editions started back in 2012 with KTM and Ryan Dungey. KTM wanted to make a new bike for Ryan Dungey to go race Supercross on, so they came out with a factory edition. Since then, factory editions have become a huge market in the motorcycle industry, with lots of riders willing to pay extra to get a stock bike with all kinds of cool parts on it. Especially young riders racing the AMA Nationals and also the Amateur Nationals that are racing in the stock classes, buying a Works Edition can be a great bike for them. But the big question is the Works Edition worth the extra money for you? Stock Honda CRF250, our test riders love this chassis and love this platform for 2025. It didn't place so well in our 250 shootout, but we did place it pretty high in the 450 shootout. You can check out both of those on our YouTube channel. This bike, $8,299. The Works Edition, $10,599, $2,300 difference. You get a long list of parts with the 2025 Honda CRF250 Works Edition. Now, we released a video a couple weeks ago with our first ride on this bike, highlighting the pros and cons of it, but since then, we've put it on the dyno, we spent a lot more time on it, and we've really been able to figure out some of the differences. So, hydraulic clutch. Hydraulic clutch comes stock on this Works Edition model. Cable clutch comes stock on the stock model. The master cylinder up here, this is exactly the same setup as what Joe Shimoda and Chance Hymas are running. The slave cylinder unit down here is a little different than what the factory Honda team is using, only because they've been running the hydraulic clutch since 2022. Now, we looked it up with Honda. If you wanted to upgrade your stock model and put a hydraulic clutch on, it would cost just over $800. So a lot of parts you have to change out, including the ignition cover to put the hydro setup on your stock model. Also, Yoshimura full exhaust system. This $1,600 upgrade. So right there, if you put a hydro clutch and you put a Yoshimura exhaust on your stock model, you're already bumping over that $10,599 price tag that this bike comes with. And that's not even talking about the ECU upgrades that we appreciate. It's also got slight port and polish inside of the cylinder head. It's got the red cylinder head on here. It's also got the coated upper fork legs and lower fork legs, as well as the coated shock shaft with an 18 mil shock shaft for added holdup in the rear. Our test riders love the suspension on this bike, including the rims, LTX DID rims, stronger, much stronger than stock. It comes with Dunlop tires instead of Pirelli. And I think that's pretty much it. Also, twin air cover, twin air filter, and throttle jockey cover, as well as HRC inspired graphics. And one of my favorite things is adjustable by hand compression clickers up here on the forks. So Honda CRF250 Works Edition, our test riders love it, but we have put it on the dyno and we were surprised with those results. But before we share the dyno results, let's hit the track and do some lap time comparisons with myself and some of our other test riders to see if the $10,599 price tag actually makes us any faster in lap times. So results are in, we got dyno results and lap times. Before we talk about lap times, let's talk about the dyno. All of our test riders loved this engine. We had 4 different guys ride it at Paula for our first day. I thought 2 horsepower stronger than the stock model. I mean, I was blown away by it that first day. Turns out, dyno number, the Works Edition is half a horsepower slower than the stock model. If you look at the dyno curve, it's almost identical. The Works Edition is actually just a tiny bit lower though, in the bottom end, and then in the mid-range they're about the same, and then on the top, the stock model actually pulls just a little bit over it. So that just goes to show dynos, they're only one tool to the test. I've never seen a dyno gear up and do a start next to me and race. I've never seen a dyno cross the finish line. Dynos do not race motorcycles, and dynos aren't the end-all be-all. When it comes to building a motorcycle, it's not about dyno numbers, it's about how it feels on the track. However, as a test rider who writes articles for a living and talks about them on camera, dynos really help us put a number to what we're feeling on the track. And what we're feeling about the Works Edition, we still like this engine, we still like how this bike rides, but it's not quite as fast as we first thought it was at Paula. Riding it more here at Glen Helen over multiple days, We got longer start, we got longer hills, riding them back-to-back, even drag racing them. It's true, this bike doesn't pull away from the stock model. However, the way that it puts the power to the ground does make this bike run better on the track. So for lap times results, I did a lap time. Josh Fout, Shawn Bushnell, the three of us had fun on it, and let's get them on here now to talk about it. All right, Shawn Bushnell, Josh Fout, what was your impressions riding this bike back-to-back with the stock model? Tell me what you told me when you came off the track.
It's just way easier to ride. Just simple as that. The Works Edition is easier to ride. It doesn't feel like you're going faster, but evidently you probably are if you're riding it, just because everything's easier.
Yep. So Shawn went out on the stock bike, 56 flat, and then you went out on the Works Edition. I asked him, I was like, which bike do you like better? He said, I feel faster on the Works Edition. I like this one, but I don't think my lap time was too different. You thought it was pretty similar?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the same. I took all the same lines. I tried to do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And so I figured, it'll be the same.
Did you make a mistake, or you just thought it was?
I always make mistakes, but I think they were the same.
Okay, so he thought they were going to be the same, and then it turned out Shawn was a second and a half faster on this bike. So that's pretty surprising. Kind of goes, I mean, what was your realization with that?
I think just being easier to ride. The corner, exit speed out of the corners probably, made that number come down.
Yeah, and what do you think, like, what do you like about it? What stands out about it?
I like the seat. I like the grips. I like the way the throttle feels, and this hydraulic clutch is really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Josh, how was it for you?
For me, I really like this motorcycle. The way I think of it is Honda did a great job of making an overall awesome package.
Yep.
It's not just one thing or the other. It's not the engine, it's not the suspension. It's the combination, which is really good. This bike is very plush. It's really easy to ride. The clutch is really comfy.
Yep.
So it's like confidence inspiring.
Yep.
I'm 195, 200 pounds, give or take.
Yep.
This bike's a little soft for me. I made a couple mistakes. The shock wants to rebound a little bit on me. Other than that, I don't have a lot of complaints. It's very comfy.
Nice.
Very, very comfy.
Nice. And stock model suspension, are you more happy with the stock suspension for your weight, or what's the difference? Because this one obviously has the coatings in the fork, it has the coatings on the shock shaft. So we've talked about it. That helps the suspension move a little easier. Spring rates are the same, but damping is a little different for this bike. But how was the suspension for you?
So like we were talking earlier, when we're testing, we're going fast, but we're being safe. Today we're doing lap time, so there's a little bit of send. I was more comfortable on the stock bike. The hold up in the fork, and maybe it wasn't as comfortable, but it was easier to go faster. This engine is better though. I like the meat in the middle. Other than that, suspension on the other bike.
Race testing is the way to test. If you just go out and do testing while you're practicing, you're not pushing your limits. And because we had the stopwatch on today, we had a little bit of rivalry going today between these two especially. So the pressure is on, and that's when you make mistakes, and that's also when you find the pros and cons of bikes. So that's why we race test motorcycles at Motocross Action. Turns out you had the same lap time on both bikes.
Yeah, within 3 100ths.
Yep.
So, I mean, splitting hairs here.
Splitting hairs for Josh Fout, so pretty much exact same lap time for him. For me, I was 1.7 seconds faster on the Works Edition. So all around for me, I felt more comfortable on this bike. Suspension wise, I'm not as heavy, I'm 175. So yes, a little plusher, but also a little more predictable for me. If I was racing a national on it, I would probably go stiffer, but it was more predictable for me today here at Glen Helen. Track was awesome. The hydro clutch, super easy, super smooth, and I think that helps putting power to the ground. And then the rest of the bike, I mean, engine definitely stronger in the mid-range on this bike. But as far as low speed pickup, top end pulling, not a huge difference from the stock bike going back to back on it, but 1.7 seconds for me, same for you, 1.6. 1.6 for Shawn. So there you have it. Works Edition was overall better, but it is, like splitting hairs. We appreciate Honda letting us ride this bike and test it. We're going to continue to race test this thing, racing it this weekend here at Glen Helen. And any final thoughts from you guys?
It's a really good bike, especially for the price difference. If you're going to buy a pipe and mapping and all that stuff. Anyways, if you do the math, this one makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So if you do the math like we talked about, adding an aftermarket exhaust gets up over $1,000, and then mapping your ECU, putting the hydro clutch on, like we said, $800, plus a lot of parts you got to change to do that. So good times on the Honda.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching This Week in MXA. Thanks to Trevor Nelson for kicking butt behind the camera. See you in the next episode.